All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Divij's Den podcast, episode 140. We've been going strong for a long time. Shout out to Grant. I'm gonna give you a shout out every episode. The first 10 seconds is just gonna be dedicated to this man because we wouldn't be here without him. So shout out to Till Death Network. Go follow him. Follow him. Subscribe. I was gonna say subscribe, but there's nothing to really. Is there something to subscribe to? Okay, yeah, subscribe to the YouTube. Go give them a follow. But anyways, we got an incredible guest today. As you guys know, we've been going super deep into the health and wellness space this year, and we've had beautiful conversations with all types of doctors and even a 21-year-old health guru that I met outside Erewhon who talked about cold plunges and the benefits of high UV rays, which I'm very questionable about some of his thoughts. But today we have something very unique. I think this conversation is going to be very exciting. It's going to be super niche because this isn't a subject matter that I think is discussed really ever. I mean, when I heard of this man, I was like, I don't even know what this means. So we're going to get some real in-depth knowledge from Dr. Nathan Bryan. He's a nitric oxide scientist, an inventor, and an author. He is the international leader. He is the international leader in molecular medicine, the founder of Bryan Therapeutics Incorporated, Nitric Oxide Innovations, Numa Nitric Oxide LLC, and Bryan Nutraceuticals LLC. I think I said those
That's
correctly.
right. We're trying to simplify things. We're bringing it under one roof.
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah, because there's a lot of companies with some interesting names, but we'll get into that. But he was the first to describe nitrate and nitrite as indispensable nutrients required for optimal cardiovascular health. I'll be honest with you. I usually can do the intro without the notes, but there's so many hard words in this that I had to write it down. But Dr. Nathan Bryan, thank you so much for coming on. It's great to meet you.
Thanks, great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So I got to ask you, what is nitric oxide restoration? And can you just tell me what nitric oxide even is?
Yeah, so nitric oxide is a gas. It's naturally produced. It's a naturally produced molecule in the human body, but it regulates many important physiological functions. In fact, it's foundational for human optimization, health, and longevity. It's what we call a vasodilator. It dilates blood vessels, improves oxygenation, improves nutrient delivery. It mobilizes stem cells to repair and recover. It activates mitochondria, so we have more energy production. And that's just a short list of all the important things it does. Mitigates inflammation.
Yeah. So a lot of very helpful benefits to the human body.
Sure. It's all about regulation of blood flow, right? So, it's not just athletic performance, it's sexual performance. We have to dilate blood vessels of the sex organs if we want to perform. If we want to have a conversation, we've got to, function executively and cognitively. That's all dependent upon regulation of blood flow, and all that's dependent upon the body's ability to produce nitric oxide.
Yeah.
If you can't make nitric oxide, can't have sex, can't get an erection, can't think, you can't perform.
You can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
Okay. So with that being said, if we know that nitric oxide is so important to the human body, tell me about some of the things that people can do every day to boost their nitric oxide. Because if you're telling me that I can have better sex when I have a higher nitric oxide level, I want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah, that's part of it. But give me some of like the things that humans can do. And also I want to understand, is it different from male or female? Because all of our bodies are obviously different.
Yeah. No, there seems to be some sex-specific differences. So premenopausal women tend to make more nitric oxide than age-matched male counterparts. But at menopause, when they lose the production of estrogen, nitric oxide levels plummet. And so, to answer your question, what do we do to promote nitric oxide production? We first had to understand, how does the human body make nitric oxide? And then we had to answer the question, what goes wrong in people that can't make it? Why do people lose the ability to produce nitric oxide? So the past 25 years, that's what I've set out to answer in basic science and clinical translation of that science. So number one is you have to stop doing the things that inhibit nitric oxide production. And that includes use of fluoride toothpaste, use of antiseptic mouthwash, use of antacids. Those are the big ones because that basically puts the brakes on nitric oxide production. And then you can start doing the things to promote it. Moderate physical exercise, a balanced diet in moderation, free of sugar and carbs, 20-30 minutes of sunlight a day. Those are the basic principles to help the body naturally produce nitric oxide.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. You mentioned fluoride toothpaste. I assume you're talking about like Colgate, for example?
Most toothpaste on the market are fluorinated. I mean, this goes back, decades, because you got to ask yourself, why do they put fluoride in a toothpaste? Because it's antiseptic. It kills the bacteria.
Yeah.
And there was some early data on that really didn't stand the test of time that it thought to remineralize the teeth. And now we know, and even regulatory agencies have revealed that there's really no benefit of fluoride, and it's all risk. Fluoride lowers the IQ up to 7 points in kids.
Wow.
And so we have to get rid of fluoride. I mean, it's in 73% of the municipalities in the U.S. put fluoride in their drinking water, or in their water. It's the water we drink. It's the water we cook in. It's the water we bathe in. So we're over-fluorinated. It shuts down thyroid function. It kills the bacteria in and on our body, and it's a very dangerous chemical we have to get rid of.
Yeah. That's so scary to me, dude. My girlfriend has a 5-year-old daughter, and so, when I go to her place, I see the Colgate and I see these things, and in my soul, I know it's wrong. And I always tell them, you got to change the toothpaste. We got to go get something different. Or even when it comes to sunscreen, I'm like, you can't use the chemicals. It's got to be the mineral sunscreen or tallow sunscreen. But it just macro level thinking for a second, even just going into a grocery store, right? Like Trader Joe's or, Whole Foods or Erewhon or whatever. Some of those are healthier, but in the majority of the Walmarts, you can't go anywhere, like shopping anywhere in the middle of the grocery store you're literally killing yourself, right? So talk to me like macro level about what's going on in the world or in the U.S. specifically, because I know, for example, a lot of the stuff that's available in the U.S., like Prime Hydration, some of these things are banned in other countries altogether. Right. So is someone trying to kill us? Like, what's going on in the USA?
No, you would think so. I mean, I look at it as a biochemist and physiologist, if I wanted to make you chronically ill and dependent upon pharmaceutical drugs for the rest of your life, I would do what Americans do. I would follow the government's food pyramid, eat a lot of processed foods, grains, carbohydrates, very little meat, a lot of seed oils, fats, bad fats. And then I would put fluoride in our drinking water. I'd put fluoride in our toothpaste. I'd put everybody on a cholesterol-lowering medication to get their cholesterol below 200, to where you can't make vitamin D, you become immunocompromised, you can't make testosterone, can't make estrogen. And unfortunately, I would put everybody on antacids. And unfortunately, that's most Americans, because it leads to chronic health issues, and you become a very good customer to Big Pharma. But it all starts with food. I mean, look, the food grown in America, and this is bona fide data, has 78% less nutrients than the same food grown in the 1940s. So the soils are depleted of nutrients. The food we get isn't giving us the basic nutrients, and plus it's toxic. Yeah. So I think you make a good point. The perimeter shopping in a grocery store is the way to go, because this idea of a non-perishable food item is an oxymoron. If it's food, it will perish. Right. If it's non-perishable, it's not food.
Right. Have you seen the video of the grandma who had the hamburger from, I think it was McDonald's, and she had it in her closet for like 100 years, but it looked totally fine?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's not food.
Brother, yeah. And honestly, I get irked. Like, I get the chills when I think about this stuff, because, I think about my kids that are going to be, God willing, coming into the universe pretty soon. Bro, they ain't going near McDonald's. They ain't even going to the grocery store, to be honest. Like, we'll go to Erewhon. I love Erewhon. Do you shop at Erewhon? Have you heard of it?
No, they don't have that in Texas.
Oh, okay.
I don't think.
Dang. Hopefully they can bring it out there. Before we get deeper into like the science and health and wellness, talk to me about your background. Like, how did you get into this? Like, when you were a kid, did you always have an interest in like health and wellness? Like, how did you get into nitric oxide? It's so random.
Well, no, I'm a small town country boy in Texas. I grew up in a really small town, graduated top of my class in high school. Then I went to University of Texas at Austin and got a degree in biochemistry. And I was always good in science and math. Obviously, I made good grades. And I had a chance to do undergraduate research in biochemistry at University of Texas. And I fell in love with this feeling of discovery, this ability, this complete intellectual freedom, right? So you could ask any biological question you want and then design a set of experiments to get you an answer. And so that was what drove my curiosity. And then, when I was a kid, my dad had a tragic car accident, and left him paralyzed from his waist down.
Oh my gosh.
And I saw the standard of care fail my dad. He suffered from high blood pressure. Obviously, he was sedentary by design with a spinal cord injury. But he developed these non-healing wounds. And he almost died from them. They become infected. He becomes septic. And, all the doctors I took him to said, you'll never heal this wound. He's not going to get better. And I just refused to accept that. So then after my undergraduate degree in biochemistry, I went to LSU School of Medicine and got a PhD in molecular and cellular physiology. And it was there, the late 90s, early 2000s, where I was introduced to the science of nitric oxide. A Nobel Prize had just been awarded for its discovery, so we knew it was extremely important. And, I knew that was kind of the path. If that discovery and the guys who won the Nobel Prize, who I had conversations with, were right, then nitric oxide would change the world. and we just had to understand how the human body made it, why people lose the ability to produce it naturally, and then how do we deliver it safely and effectively.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, and I pray that your father's okay.
He's fine now. He's 78 years old. He spent more than half his life in a wheelchair, and
wow.
we've got him off blood pressure medicine. We've got his diabetes managed, and we've healed a 4-year-old non-healing wound with nitric oxide. So that's really I knew when we could cure Dad and change Dad's life that, we were onto something.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, man. So when this accident happened, was that what inspired you to go deeper into your field? Because you wanted to help repair him?
I was 10 years old at the time when it happened. My brother and I had to go to work because we were, he was self-employed, didn't have insurance, and so we had to go to work. So at that point, it was survival, right? But as I entered high school and went to college and got involved in science, then, in the back of my mind, and then, dealing with Dad's health issues from the time I was 10 till, even today for 40 years, the medical system has failed him and failed a lot of people. So, I was motivated to understand the mechanism of disease to the extent that we could fix it.
Yeah. How did it make you feel? Because, I just went through this with my mom. She had a double bilateral lung transplant on Valentine's Day last year. And we spent a lot of time at UCLA Medical going through the treatment and in the hospital, when she got the lungs and whatnot. And even to this day, shout out to UCLA first. I mean, they saved her life, so I've nothing bad to say about them. But I've had a lot of struggles and difficulty with some of the medication that they've prescribed. She's on a whole bucket of medication. And then when I try and bring up, for example, alternative methods of treatment, small things like ginger or honey or, functional mushrooms or whatever, it kind of gets shut down. And they're like, no, you got to stay on the X, Y, and Z. And so I've had this battle where I'm like, this medical group has saved her life, but I am pretty confident from the experts that I listen to and that I've spoken to that these other things that aren't, prescribed by UCLA would work for her, but they're getting denied by the medical professionals. So I'm curious, did you go through a struggle like that with your doctors, with your father? And also, you're like a doctor. So for you, it's got to be almost more frustrating because you actually understand the medical science behind it.
No, that's right. No, it's the frustration. So I not only experienced it personally from Dad's point of view, but I taught in medical schools. I taught future physicians for a number of years and saw that, we do a good job of educating and training on the basic sciences, the physiology, the biochemistry, the anatomy, things like that. But that seems to be lost in translation once you start the practice of medicine. Because you got to understand, medicine is a business, right? And once you make a diagnosis, there's only a finite list of things you can do that fall into the so-called standard of care. Yeah. And if it's not in the standard of care, it's not part of their armament. It's not part of any conversation. And so what happens is you look up and you're 40, 50 years old and you're on 8, 10, 12, 15 different medications. And the human body is not designed to ever be exposed to, number one, any synthetic compound that inhibits a biochemical reaction, which is what a drug is, but let alone a dozen or more. And most old people are over-medicated. When there's natural strategies that can, fix the underlying problem. We don't need drug therapy. We don't need to always look for drug therapy as a first kind of line of defense. We've got to understand the physiology, fix the reason why these symptoms manifest. And, my belief is you give the body what it needs, you remove from the body what it doesn't need, the body heals itself.
Yeah, I love that. I love that perspective so much. In your mind, just general health speaking, right? Like an average man or an average woman, let's say 25 years old, who, let's say they're going to the gym a couple times a week, they're relatively healthy, or honestly, even on the other side, someone who's obese and stressed and not doing it the right way. What are some things tactically that they can do every day to just generally improve and boost their health?
The thing, I answer this from a scientific perspective and what's been clinically relevant and shown, but also what's worked for me personally.
Yeah.
And so I think the biggest thing people can do, because 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically unfit, and we're overfed.
Sad.
And we graze. So the thing I tell people to do, which changes their life, is do an 18-hour fast every day. Mm-hmm. Eat your last meal at 6 o'clock and don't eat again until noon. That completely resets your metabolism. And then just eliminate carbs and sugars. Anything that leads to an increase in blood sugar, don't eat it. And then what happens is people their physiology changes, their metabolism changes, and then they start to feel better. Now they're motivated. and then you fall off the wagon and you eat, a bowl of ice cream or some pizza or something, and your body will punish you for it because you'll feel it.
Yeah.
And that's what motivates me is when you eat a clean diet, when you do a fast every day, and then you eat a balanced diet in moderation, a lot of good protein, good fats, limited carbs. I mean, it makes all the difference.
Yeah. And then fibers too is very important.
Fiber's very important, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's so simple, right? Like it's almost baffling how easy it really can be.
Well, it's simple, but it's not easy, right?
True.
Concepts are simple, but
yeah,
humans are programmed to where they don't want to do hard things.
Yeah.
And almost anything that's worth doing is hard. And if it's hard, people just give up and don't want to do it.
Yeah. And there's so much reward on the other side. Like once you start actually doing the hard things, like I hate running long distance, but when I go run a half marathon, I feel amazing. Yeah. Like it's the best dopamine ever.
What's me? I hate doing a cold plunge, but 10 minutes after I get out of that tub, I feel amazing.
You're plunging for 10 minutes?
No, 10 minutes after I get out.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, I hope you're okay.
3 minutes.
That's 3 minutes. Yeah, I was going to say, that's a better time.
No, but 10 minutes after, when I'm done shivering and my body warms up, I mean, you feel amazing.
You feel incredible. Yeah.
So I just have to convince myself that 3 minutes of hell is worth it, and it's rewarding, and it's a you got to prepare yourself mentally, and to do that because there's nothing fun about it, right?
Right.
But the reward is worth it.
The reward is amazing. You mentioned an 18-hour fast. I struggle with this because the gospel says a 3-day fast can change your life and do beautiful things for you. And I've done almost 3 days on water and MCT oil and some electrolytes, and I felt great. But then most of the time I'm doing 16 hours. But I hear that for women, for example, it can be different. Like an 18-hour fast might do more damage than actually be helpful. So when you say 18 hours, is that like generally for like a male? Or do you recommend a different amount of time for a female?
I think for most people, 18 hours is doable, and it's not that difficult. But I recommend doing it at night because, 8 of those 18 hours are going to be sleeping. So you just have to, fast from 6 till 9 or 10 before you go to bed, which you shouldn't eat before you go to bed anyway. And then just skip breakfast. Yeah. And wait till lunch. Yeah. And that I think anybody's doable. But I do that every day, typically. Yeah. And then maybe once a week I'll do a 24-hour fast. I'm on a 30-hour fast now as we're sitting here. And then maybe once a month I'll do a 70.
Technically
48.
You broke it because you did have one of those chews.
Oh, I did. There you go.
I'm sorry. I had to put you on blast.
Yeah.
Did that technically break your fast? Because I think it did have calories.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't look at the label.
Okay, we'll come back to that.
But regardless, yeah.
So, okay, that's interesting. You mentioned breakfast. I'm sorry, I'm being very nitpicky because, especially with science and this kind of conversation, I think it's important to be very specific, which I learned from Andrew Huberman. I'm trying to be on that vibe, which is the concept of breakfast, right? Like I think as a man, I said this on the last podcast, I think in my opinion, there's two personalities of a man. There's the one that needs to wake up and do really hard things to feel good and feel present. And then there's the other type of man who needs to be sort of like more calm and easy into his day, right? So you have to kind of identify what personality type you are. For me, I need to get punched in the face first thing in the morning to feel good. So I go to spar or whatever. I'm not doing like fist fights on the street. But I use breakfast as a reward after I go do something hard. So I don't eat until I work out, right? So, but then on the flip side, there's a lot of information out there. A lot of people say you shouldn't skip breakfast because that's where you should have your biggest meal and you should really like focus in on your foods. It
depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're an athlete and you need to fuel to go and do what you do to spar, then you probably should you should fuel and break your fast early in the morning. For me and my lifestyle and what I'm trying to achieve, I don't break my fast until noon. Yeah. And typically that's a high protein, good fats, a meal that breaks my fast. Yeah. But for me, I'm the guy, I wake up every morning and I'm pretty disciplined in routine. But my day starts kind of low key. I sit in my sauna for 30 minutes. I open my Hallow app. I do my prayers and I start my day with 30 minutes of gratitude. And I figure out mentally what I've got to accomplish that day, create a strategy. And then I'm focused on how do I be better today than I was yesterday? And how am I going to accomplish everything I got to do today and set a timeline throughout that day. So that's how my day gets started. Then I typically go get in the cold plunge. About that time, the sun's coming up. I watch the sun come up. Then I'm ready to roll.
Let's go. That's a beautiful way to start your morning. Mine's very similar. It's not sauna first, but it's prayer, sunlight, hydration, electrolytes, stretch, workout, sauna, cold plunge. Or usually cold plunge before the workout.
Yeah, no, I do that. I missed the workout. I'll do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, four sets of 25, and then by that time I go get in the sauna.
Nice. Let's go.
So it gets my blood going, gets me physically active.
Yeah.
Takes me about 4.5 minutes, but in that 4.5 minutes I'm sweating and panting and going pretty good.
That's amazing. Talk to me about the relationship between sauna and cardiovascular systems, because so I have a buddy, I won't say his name, but he was complaining to me about his heart having issues, and he went to the hospital. And one day God spoke to me and said, you should ask him about his sauna routine, because he had mentioned to me previously that he goes in the sauna. So I called him and he said, I was like, yo, how long do you stay in the sauna? And he was like, oh, typically I'll do like 60 to 90 minutes. And I was like, brother, 60 to 90 minutes a week? Or are we talking about per session? And he said, no, it's per session. I was like, okay, how hot is the sauna? He was like, oh, it's probably like 220. And I was like, brother, like, what do you think is causing your heart issues? It's the sauna. Like, he should be doing 15 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry, I got emotional there because he's a good friend. But what is the right amount of time to spend in the sauna, and what is the ideal temperature, in your opinion, to be in the sauna?
If you're healthy and you don't have any underlying cardiovascular risk or health problems, for me, 30 minutes at 170 degrees in an infrared sauna accomplishes, number one, it heats up my core temperature. I'm sweating, I'm detoxing, I'm exposed to the infrared light, so I'm activating my mitochondria in energy production. But if you've got underlying cardiovascular risk or cardiovascular disease, that can put a lot of stress on your heart. And then the other thing is, these cold plunges are become popular. But, I recommend against people with heart failure or previous heart attack jumping into sitting in a sauna, then jumping into a cold plunge, because that's going to put enormous stress on the heart. And if your heart's not strong, it could send you into heart attack. Yeah. So but to answer your question, I think for me, what I've found works is 30 minutes at 170 degrees in infrared sauna. You're hot, you're sweating, you're detoxing, and then you go jump in a cold plunge and cool off for 3 minutes, and then you're ready to start your day.
Yeah. I want to talk deeper about, your work that you specifically do. But before I get there, I wanted to ask you about, we'll cut this part because I'm blanking. What was I going to ask? Shoot. Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. We'll cut that part out and we'll come back to it. So speaking of your workout regimen, because to me that's like a really great, perfect amount of time to work out. As a 28-year-old, I'm in the gym usually like 2 to 3 times a day, which at some point I've kind of realized is potentially overtraining. And then, I've seen videos of people that are running marathons and they end up, unfortunately, like getting heart attacks at the end of it. So in your opinion, like what is overtraining and like what's a good amount of time for like a healthy male or a female to spend in the gym and actually like lifting weights and running?
Well, again, I think it depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just trying, like for me, my whole goal is to maintain lean body mass and to not lose bone or muscle. So to me to accomplish that objective, I just need to move and eat healthy. But if you're trying to bulk up, if you're a bodybuilder, if you're a professional athlete, then those requirements are much different than what I'm trying to achieve. Yeah. But no, when you work out, you're stressing your muscles, but you got to give them time to recover and rebuild and to hypertrophy and to recover from that initial insult. So you can overtrain. And people who do ultra marathons, when you're running that long, you're shutting down blood supply to your kidneys, because people who run marathons don't make urine. Why aren't they making urine? Because there's no blood supply to the kidney, because you're trying to supply the working skeletal muscles in the heart and the lungs. So you can overdo it, and it happens all the time. But I think we have to listen to our body. Yeah. Our body talks to us all the time. And if you don't pay attention and make changes when your body talks to you, you're going to end up in some trouble. But for me, it's, I'm 51, but I don't have, my day is busy. So, I would always use the excuse, well, I didn't have time to go to the gym. And then I started doing this high-intensity interval training, and I started doing squats while I'm brushing my teeth. So I brush my teeth for 2 minutes, and I'm squatting. That's so nobody has the excuse that you don't have time. And then when I get out of bed, I just drop down and do 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and it takes me 4 minutes. Everybody has 4 minutes.
Yeah. So 100 push-ups in 4 minutes is very impressive.
Well, it's 25 push-ups, 25 squats.
Oh, okay,
25 push-ups, 25 squats.
I thought you were going straight for 100. I was like, dang, bro. Because you do have big arms. I was like, dang, that's pretty impressive.
No, it's intervals.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Okay, talk to me about your different companies that you have, because I was doing research, but I was so confused by the nitric oxide word that I kind of shut down. Yeah. So tell me a bit more about your businesses, your career. Like, what are you really excited about nowadays with the work that you do?
Well, I spent 20 years in academia as a professor of molecular medicine, made a lot of discoveries, filed patents were issued. And typically in academia, they license your patents to existing companies.
Yeah.
Right? But we were so far ahead of our time, nobody was interested in nitric oxide-based therapeutics or product technology. So in 2008, I made the decision, if I'm going to commercialize these discoveries I've made, then it's up to me. So I started my own companies and I licensed my technology from the University of Texas. And we've had different companies along the way, but now I'm trying to bring it all under one roof. But the thing I'm most excited about, so we develop consumer products. So we make a solid dose form of nitric oxide gas. So it's an orally disintegrating tablet. You put it in your mouth, dissolves over 5 to 6 minutes, and it produces nitric oxide gas. So if your body can't make it, then we do it for you.
Wow.
I've made a topical line of products for skincare and beauty, based on healing my dad's own non-healing wound. We forget the skin's an organ. If the skin doesn't have adequate blood supply, then it fails.
Yeah.
Right? You get acne, you get fine lines and wrinkles, and you look old.
Yeah.
So I developed a topical nitric oxide. That was a company called Pneuma Nitric Oxide. And then we're developing drug therapy, taking this core technology and going through the FDA for safe and effective drugs for heart disease. We've got a drug for Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And then I'm making a topical drug for diabetic ulcers and non-healing wounds. So that's kind of been my focus and mission, and we're acquiring these other companies to bring it all under one roof. So we've got, a company that has consumer products. We've got a company that's got, drugs that we're going to get through the FDA, and we're going to be a major player in healthcare.
Wow. Dude, you're like Superman. You're like saving lives, like literally with the products that you're making.
No, look, the beauty of what we do is every morning, including this morning when I woke up at 4 a.m.,
yeah,
I've got hundreds of text, emails, voicemails of people that we've changed their life. It happens every day, and these emails, and sometimes I post them on social media when I have time, but, this truly is changing the world, because what we're finding is that high blood pressure, for instance, is a symptom of nitric oxide deficiency.
Yeah.
Erectile dysfunction is a symptom of nitric oxide deficiency. Type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, is a symptom of nitric oxide deficiency. So when we focus on Alzheimer's, is a metabolic vascular disease that's due to a loss of nitric oxide production. So once we understand, again, how much nitric oxide can we give, restorative physiology, right? How much are you not making? How much do we need to give back to you so your body can do what it's designed to do? Then people get better.
Wow.
And that's the future of medicine. So I know that when we get these drugs approved, that we're going to change the world. We're already changing the world, but it's going to eradicate things like Alzheimer's. And 65,000 Americans die in nursing homes every year from wounds that get infected. Yeah. And to me, that's unacceptable, because we're going to fix that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. How do you feel about the current leadership in healthcare right now? Like, let's talk about the president, like Donald Trump, and I'm not familiar who's on the health side. I think RFK Jr. is very involved with, MAHA or whatever, but who are some of the folks, on the government and political side of things that you're excited about, that you think are actually making a positive impact? And also someone like Elon Musk, like, is he doing anything significant that you're keeping an eye on when it comes to healthcare?
No, I think this administration is the right people at the right time for healthcare. Going from the previous administration that was so hell-bent on getting everybody jabbed and vaccinated without proving the safety of these it's criminal. So to answer you, Trump's been taking our form of nitric oxide product since 2012.
Wow.
And in fact, when he was elected to the presidency in 2016, we were administering nitric oxide throughout the entire administration.
Wow.
So now, and obviously they learned a lot during that first administration. Now I think with RFK and this new head of FDA and RFK leading the Department of Health and Human Services, he's putting all the right people in the right places to understand that the way we've done things for the past 50 and 60 years is not the way to go. It's an experiment gone horribly wrong. Yeah. Right? People are over-medicated. We're not getting to root cause medicine and fixing the reason why people are sick. And I think it's to do with diet. It's all these toxins and food dyes and stuff in our food supply. It's glyphosate and Roundup sprayed on our food. And it's a lot of toxins in the environment that we got to get rid of, and then get back to the basics of physiology. And I think they understand that. So I'm a big fan of it, and we're doing our part as part of the Make America Healthy Again program, and trying to get this out front and center.
Yeah. I love what you do, man. I think it's so important for society. And yeah, I'm super, super grateful for everything that you're doing. I have some random questions that I want to ask you that are just off the top of my head. What are your thoughts on red meat and how it affects, your cholesterol, for example? And do you think it's healthy to have like beef and lamb and goat?
Absolutely. I'm a beef grower. I raise my own beef. I have 800 acres in Texas. We raise our own vegetables and we raise our own beef. But number one, cholesterol does not cause heart disease. So cholesterol is a non-issue to me. Our body makes cholesterol.
Yeah.
And our body makes cholesterol because we need it. We need it for brain health. We need it for the integrity of the cell membrane.
Yeah.
So I eat red meat every day of my life. The only time I didn't is I gave up red meat 1 year for Lent. And it was the worst 40 days of my life because my body craves red meat, and we need protein, we need good fats, and red meat is a health food.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on nicotine?
Nicotine, biochemically speaking, it's a vasoconstrictor. But I think there's some nicotinic receptors in the body, and nicotine has some positive effects. But again, I think it's dose dependent, and you can overdo it on anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using Lucy Nicotine. Shout out to Lucy. Love them. Investors, so I really love you guys. But I've noticed that when I have too much, I do feel tension, headache sort of symptom, which I'm actually having right now. So maybe I'll cut my dose down a bit.
Yeah, cut it down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then,
kind of trim it down a bit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Random questions to that. We'll cut that. What are your thoughts on sunscreen?
Sunscreen is an absolute no-no. I've never used sunscreen. My kids have never had sunscreen. The dangers of sunscreen far outweigh the risk of sunlight exposure. I mean, we need sunlight. We've been conditioned to put sunscreen on SPF 65 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the chemicals in those is what's causing cancer. It's not the sun that's causing melanoma. And look, you can overdo it too. So when we go outside or go to the beach, we never put on sunscreen. Yeah. But what we do is, well, number one, we look at the sun. We don't wear sunglasses because it conditions the body that you're exposed to bright light. Yeah. And then the other thing is we just cover up. Once we had enough sun, we cover up. But not with sunscreen, but with cotton shirts and cotton pants.
Yeah. I went for a walk with what?
And caps.
Oh, caps. Yeah. I went for a walk earlier. I do a 15-minute walk after every meal, but it was like 2 o'clock. And after like 8 minutes, I felt my skin like it started to hurt. Like I felt like I was going to get sunburned. So I hopped in an Uber instead of walking back. So there could be too much sun exposure too, right? You don't want to overdo it.
You don't want to get sunburned. Your skin start peeling off.
Yeah. But I read somewhere that the more sunburns that you have, the increased risk of your DNA changing and causing things like skin cancer.
Well, sure. I mean, the visible light we see from the sunlight is only a very small part of the radiation that we're getting from that. So, yeah, there's certain wavelengths of light it's radiation. Yeah. And you can overdo it. Yeah.
Very interesting. So you seem like a very smart man, I got to be honest. I'm very excited to, God willing, build our friendship and continue to learn from you. But I'm very curious, when you're not saving the world when it comes to health and wellness and nitric oxide, what are some things you like to do just like for fun?
My hobby is I'm a team roper, a rodeo.
What?
And rope steers, yeah.
What does that mean? Like with the bulls?
No, it's team roping is where you have two people on horseback. So one guy goes out there and ropes the horns of the steer, and then turns it, and then I come in and rope the feet, and the fastest time wins. Wow.
How did you find that? That's such a very specific.
I grew up in Texas, and when I was a kid, I was a calf roper. I was a competitive calf roper. And so I grew up riding horses and rodeoing, and then once I moved back to Texas, once I finished my training in Boston, I got an 800-acre ranch out in Texas and got cows and horses, and that's what we do for fun.
Wow. Are you friends with Joe Rogan?
No, Joe's right up the road. We have mutual friends, but I think Joe and our paths will cross.
Yeah, I could see you on his podcast. Yeah. I feel you guys should have a very in-depth conversation about nitric oxide. Who are some people that you look up to in your field that inspire you?
Really, Lou Ignarro, who's here in Beverly Hills, he won the Nobel. He was one of the 3 scientists that won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of nitric oxide. He's been a hero of mine for 25 years. I met him back in 1999 or 2000 after he won the Nobel Prize, and he's just a really humble, good guy and supportive of young people like me back then, and continues to support the field. And I owe gratitude to him because he started this field that I've had the privilege to participate in and innovate in for the past 25 years.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I really appreciate you coming on, dude. I know you have to
this
get
is
to a
great.
flight. I like to end our conversations with just sort of like one thing that you would give to our audience is like a last gem for them to keep in their pocket. So if there's any piece of advice that you could give to our listeners, what would it be?
Yeah, no, I think the conversation started around nitric oxide, and it's just like I think you're the best example. There's too few people who know what this molecule is and fail to recognize how important it is for their own health. So if you're sick and you've dealt with chronic health conditions that have been poorly managed, then think about nitric oxide. And even for you, who's young and healthy and vibrant and don't want to and working hard not to get ill and chronic disease, then think about nitric oxide and think about all the things that we know. Stop doing the things that disrupt it, start doing the things that promote it, and I think we're all going to be better for it.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. If people are curious and they want to learn more about nitric oxide and all the amazing companies that you have, where can they find you?
I send people to my YouTube channel because it's educational. I'm not selling anything, just information. But it's Dr. Nathan S. Bryan, Nitric Oxide. Okay. I've got a new book out called The Secret of Nitric Oxide, Bringing the Science to Life.
Let's go.
It chronicles my kind of personal journey of discovery. It informs on what nitric oxide is, what it does, why you should be concerned about it. But Brick Tower Press, we've launched it. We published the book, I think, a couple of months ago, but it's an Amazon bestseller. It's working its way up New York Times. So I would encourage everybody to read that. If I can do a shameless plug for my book.
Yeah, please. I'll drop a link down below. Maybe we'll get a discount code or something so I can get my commission.
And then for those interested in product technology, we're at n101.com. That's the letter N, number 1, letter O, number 1. .com. And I'm on Instagram, Dr. Nathan S. Bryan, Facebook, LinkedIn, most social media sites.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming on. Make sure you guys go follow Dr. Nathan Bryan. Make sure you guys go follow Till Death Network. Leave a review, subscribe. It's very helpful. And go take care of your body. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.